for a long time, there was a lot of things that I tend to do that was considered socially unacceptable or just considered bad manners or a bad habit to have. And these things are like shaking your legs or deep squatting or even sitting cross-legged. And there's a few more I want to talk about, but I want to go over these three first. But all these things I'm talking about, they tend to be actually good for you. And I want to go over that too. So, like shaking your legs. I feel like shaking your legs, it helps with, blood circulation. It helps with, burning calories, not a whole lot of calories, but it's still burning calories nonetheless. And it also helps with your joints with these micro movements. And when I was growing up, I was told that this is like what poor people do, mainly because when you're poor, they tend to be shivering, right, in the cold, and that's how this superstition came up with in Japanese. Well, I wouldn't call it superstition, but that's like the idea came from is Beanboo yusui, which is like a poor man's shake, or I guess quite literally, it would mean like a poverty shake. It was really looked down upon to do it, and I guess it's kind of looked down upon. It could be quite annoying for a lot of people doing that publicly, anyways. But I did it regardless. I didn't really care what other people said. It turns out it's actually good for you. I even looked it up on YouTube. I typed in Beanboo yusuri on YouTube, and then it seems like there's a whole lot of videos saying like this is actually good for you, and those are like the biggest people that in my life would tell me that don't do it, it's actually bad for you, or it's actually bad manners to do it. And if that didn't work on me, they will say like, oh, you look very impatient. I was a very patient person, and especially as a person who like these days I'm just sitting around all the time, like whether I'm doing some work or playing video games or even watching a movie, I tend to shake my leg, and that helps. I feel like that actually helps with calorie burning, if not blood circulation. So I highly think that everybody should be doing this. Another thing I talk about is sitting on a chair. I don't really sit like normally, like how most people do. I mean, I do sometimes, but I tend to sit cross-legged or on my, or I'd be kneeling on it, like I don't know how to call that in English, but it's called seiza. And sometimes I'll be squatting on my chair too, not publicly, but then for squatting, I'll be squatting on like my personal chair at home because I think it just looks kind of weird to do it in public. But but this is what I tend to do, and I also shake my leg too while sitting on the chair. I think that really helped contribute with my flexibility, because when I'm shaking my leg and sitting cross-legged, I think most people cannot. Well, I would say like most. Yeah, I would say like most people, or at least half the country cannot even do that. For me, it's a natural state, like sitting on my chair while cross-legged. Usually, it's not like cross-legged like this. It's more like one leg is like this and the other leg is like that. So, and it could be one way or the other. And that really, I guess for me, like that really contributed to like maintaining my flexibility on my legs. And also like when I'm sitting seiza, I guess that really helped with my, what would you call this? Like the muscle on your upper leg. I don't know I forgot what it was called, but that really helped me stretch out that area. But I never really felt a stretch because I was always used to it. Yeah, and if you're shaking it too, like it's also helped circulating your blood flow there too. So that my point is that these are like this is like a second bad habit that's actually helped contribute to my overall well-being. The next thing I want to talk about is, I guess, a deep squat. Most places is pretty acceptable, except Japan, right? Or like us Japanese people, because when we were told that when you're squatting, it looks like you're going to the bathroom because there's squat toilets, and or if not that, they'll use another technique to make it seem like, oh, only bad people do that, because after the war, there's a lot of delinquents that would sit like that, like planning something evil in Japan or something like that. So we were told not to do that. But for me, I think doing a deep squat, it really helps with, I talked about this earlier, it helps with stretching your muscles, and and your calves too, and your ankles. So I think like deep squatting, it should be something that should not be looked down upon. One more thing that I don't do this anymore, but I feel like I should, but it's really hard to like get back into, is that when I was little, like as in like elementary school to middle school, I would sleep in like I would have like two or three poses of sleep, or not poses, but more like two or three positions of sleeping. And it's not just lying on my back or lying on my stomach or lying to the side. It's actually more like if I'm lying down on my stomach, I would be kneeling down and lying down, kind of like that yoga pose, that that child's pose, I call it, except you don't do the stretching portion. You're just kneeling down and then your chest is on the bed or on your knees or whatever. And I'll be sleeping in that position for a long time, for overnight. I'll also be sleeping with my legs out, and I'll fall asleep while sitting in my bed, and then I'll lean forward from the waist down, from the waist up, I mean, and my chest will be hitting my knees, but it's basically like a sit and reach, except without the reaching part with my arms. That's all I can really think about right now, but I had like these really weird sleeping habits, and I think that helped with my flexibility with my legs inwards. It didn't really help me do the splits or anything like that, but it did help me with a lot of like inward stretching, I would call it, not the outward stretching, because I was never able to do the splits. I was always flexible, being able to do like sit and reach and all that. However, I do remember this. Almost every day when I was a kid, it would feel extremely sore when I wake up. Like my legs or my glutes or whatever, it will feel very, very sore. I mean, it's a very strange sleeping position, and I wouldn't call it very attractive either, but I think that because when you're sleeping, you're at the most relaxed state. It really helps with your I think it really helps with your flexibility. I think everybody should be doing things like this to improve your flexibility, like especially as adults or even as gamers, right? Especially as gamers, that we're sitting on our desk or on the couch, just not moving other than our fingers or our arms or mostly our upper body, right? Our lower body is usually just stationary. You could be lying down on the couch and you're still not moving your lower body. So you can like the least you can possibly do is shake your legs,